Is that James Bond?
Heck.
So now we're going to move into our part where we consider maybe some of the themes or some things that we want to reject. Who wants to go first?
Connor, why don't you go first?
All right, I can go first.
Connor never
That's
goes
good because I
first.
only have one thing to name here.
there
And
you
so
go.
I'm
So proud of you.
It was so hard to find stuff to reject, right?
It was.
Such a good movie.
It was hard to find something to reject. The main thing that I want to reject is the initial charge to Miles from Spider-Man after Peter Parker Spider-Man just saved him when in the original Collider. What is that thing called? I don't remember what that.
It's the Collider. Yeah, you got that right.
Collider.
Super Collider.
Yeah. So the original Spider-Man is in this
Peter
universe.
A. Parker.
Is that what his name is?
Yeah, his name was Peter A. Parker.
Okay. There you go.
That's why when the next Peter Parker came in, his name was Peter B. Parker.
Oh, all right. Anyways, he's dying, and his charge to Miles as he gives him the goober.
The goober.
As he gives him the goober, the flash drive, is when he realizes that Miles has the same abilities that he does, is to hide your face, trust no one, only you can do this.
Yeah.
To Miles Morales. And I just, I get that that's part of the Spider-Man character, is that the Spider-Man character has this belief, right? I got to hide. I can't trust anybody. Only you can do this, right? And the isolation that comes from that, I just want to name that as not good. And I don't think it's biblical. And I don't think it's actually what happens in this movie, right? It's the other spider beings that come alongside him. It's his family. It's his mom. It's his dad. Specifically, which we'll talk about in a little bit. It's the moment when his uncle dies and his dad comes to talk to him in his dorm room after the other spider people have just left, right? And he kind of gives him this charge that, man, I believe in you and you can do whatever you want and you're exceptional and amazing and all these things, right? It's the encouragement of the family that propels him forward. So the idea that when we take on something extraordinary, when we take on a responsibility, that we need to do it, that we have to do it. We can't trust anybody as much as we can trust ourselves. Yeah. We're the only ones that can do it, and we have to rely on our own strength to do it. I just name that as, no, I don't think that's true, and I don't think that's the way to thrive as people.
Well, that was even from the very beginning of the movie with Peter A. Parker's like, hey, my name's Peter Parker. He said towards the end, 10 years I've been Spider-Man, all this stuff. And he said, it's just me that's holding this city together or something like I don't remember what exactly it was, but it's like, I'm the only one keeping Brooklyn from falling into chaos. Are you kidding me? I mean, I realize that's the whole superhero thing, but it's kind of like what you're saying. That's not what we see in the rest of the movie. And that's not really what ends up being realistic and what we see in real life. It's not the individual that's pumped up. It's the team of people that get around and do something. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's my rejection.
Yeah. Ooh, because okay, here.
Oh,
my brain had another connection.
Here you go.
Because it's Jesus. Yes, he was the one guy. But even Jesus brought around the 12 disciples. And if it was just Jesus, who knows? I'm not going to try to sound like a heretic, but who knows? But he brought around the 12 and they spread the message of the one to the rest of the world. And that's what changed the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just jump on that quote?
Do it.
Jump on in. The water's great.
So the quote about the quote that Jake mentioned about
I don't know, the I'm the only one keeping the city from chaos or something like that.
Yeah. So that we should keep that quote in mind because that comes up in the next movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it does.
Tune in next time to part 2 to find out where that thought goes. Is that James Bond?
Heck. Woo. I've got a little thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
You better go.
It wasn't a huge deal, but there was that moment when Peter B. Parker is basically benching Miles before they go take the goober to, what was it called? Alma something tech? I don't know. But that the rest of the spider people were waiting outside the window listening to the entire conversation. I realized to most people it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But like, I just imagine, can you picture how humiliated you would be if you found out, if you were in that situation, you found out that the rest of you, the people that have like been helping and walking alongside you, were listening to this very discouraging, put down conversation. Like, and my whole thing with that, I've got this whole soapbox thing on here, but my whole thing with that is like, just because we may not think that someone's ready, or we may not agree with someone, maybe we don't see eye to eye, or maybe I think that I'm in a better spot than they are, does not mean that they deserve any less respect. Like, Miles still deserved the dignity to have that conversation in privacy.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Really didn't like it.
Yeah. Well, it's even like the biblical, when you think about, because he's not really like being confronted for sin. Obviously,
Right.
It's just like, hey, we're doing this without you because
You're not ready.
you're not ready. Which they were right. At that point, he wasn't ready.
Right.
But yeah, how do you, like what you're talking about, the dignity, how do you respect the dignity of the person when you come into those conflicting situations?
Yeah.
And it's the one-on-one, right? It's the starting with one-on-one. And then if they disagree, then you bring a brother or sister in Christ and you have 2-on-1, right? And then if they disagree, then you bring it before more people. And then if they disagree, then it just kind of like keeps ramping up.
Well, my brain just went immediately to like church gossip that comes in the form of prayer requests.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's done in like what sounds like a good heart, but we just covered this in our small group, 40 Days of Community with Rick Warren. It's really good. But Warren defined gossip as talking to somebody about a problem in which they are neither the part of the problem or part of the solution. Which part of the solution can even really just mean like, hey, I've got a problem with this person and I really need your advice. How should we handle this? But I feel like a lot of, and I call it church gossip because it like through the form of prayer requests, because it's like, ooh, hey, Connor, I need you to like just be in prayer for Jordan, because Jordan's really a knucklehead and he doesn't really know what he's doing and he needs to stop.
Which is true. All of that.
Not true.
But yeah, like if the person you're talking to is not a part of the problem or the solution, maybe they don't need to know.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Since you both only had one thing for
Here you
Jax,
go.
I've got another slight thing, but it's a very obvious thing, so I'll let you do your thing.
go for it.
Do your thing, Sting.
Say your obvious thing.
Okay, I just I'm like the bad guy. I'm gonna say the bad guy's ideas were flawed. So I'm gonna let you do your thing, Jordan. Do your thing, String.
Okay.
Hot take.
So, okay. First thing, really small thing. I don't want to go too much into this one. I'm not sure if I misheard, but it's when Miles is talking to Peter, and Peter's like, "How do I know I'm not gonna mess it up again?" And I might have misheard, but I'm pretty sure Miles said, "You won't." And I just want to call that out. You don't know. I think it would have been better if Miles said, "How do I know if I'm not going to mess it up again?" You don't. You don't know if you're gonna mess it up again.
Rather than you won't.
Yeah, rather than saying, "Yeah, you're definitely not going to mess it up. It's going to go fine." Like you don't know those things.
Yeah.
That's just not, when somebody is dealing with that kind of fear. One of the worst things you can do is tell them you're going to be fine. It's going to go perfectly well, because
That's called gaslighting.
well, it could be gaslighting, but it could just be straight up malforming somebody and setting them up for failure. Because what happens if you say, "Oh yeah, you won't mess up. It'll go perfectly fine." And then it doesn't. Not only are you like destroying part of your relationship with that person because they can't trust you anymore, you might be destroying their trust with anybody because they're confiding in you. Can they trust anybody? And then it becomes this like spiraling thing. Do I know it's ever gonna get better? Like, can I actually believe that good? Like this is just a really dangerous thing to try to tell somebody it's going to work out and like act like it's going to, because that's not how life works.
I mean, that's the same as walking into a church where it says that being in a relationship with Jesus is going to fix all your problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as, like, I've seen people walk away from their faith because life got hard and they expected God to take that away. Like, God doesn't always save us from the fire. He'll sit with us in it.
I'm gonna throw a Sky Jitani quote to that.
Do it. Shocker.
So Sky, yeah, right. Sky Jitani, for you regular listeners, Sky Jitani is my John Mark Comer.
I can't even argue.
Yeah.
I can't even fight this.
So Sky says that, and I'm pretty sure he phrases this as he has a friend that says this, but he says, we often treat Jesus like the WD-40 duct tape combo pack. He's all you need to fix just about anything.
Did you have another one, Jordan?
Yeah,
you said you had two, right?
Yeah. So this is my big one. This is the one that I actually wanted to call out.
Do it.
Divorcing because of having or not having kids is a stupid reason to get divorced. Like I'm just
Peter B. Parker. Got it.
Yeah, Peter and Mary Jane getting divorced because she wanted kids and he didn't. I'm sorry. That's just a stupid reason to end what's supposed to be a permanent lifelong commitment. Like I don't get it. I genuinely.
Yeah. Part of it's just because we live in a culture that makes marriage not that big of a commitment.
Right. And that's why I reject that.
Yeah.
Because why get married? First of all, why get married in the first place in that
Paul
case?
has some words about that. But yeah.
But just the idea of like, we're gonna split this off because we have this disagreement about whether, like, first of all, that's something you should probably discuss before you get married. Like that's not something that you should,
and probably even continue discussing.
Yes. Yeah. It's not something like, she says she wants kids and I probably don't, but we'll cross that bridge when we get, no, you need to cross that bridge now.
It's a pretty important thing to talk about.
It is.
You probably want to hash that out.
Yeah. And continue to hash it out and continue to work and like, even if there is tension and one person is saying yes and one person is saying no, and you're still willing to be married and you're still willing to go into that, then continue to walk in that tension, continue to like be willing to pull for each other, be willing to continue to compromise and figure that out. Maybe address some of the things like, okay, what is it that like brings you joy about having a child? Or what are the things that you're afraid of with having a child? Like, and then that's not just for like divorcing because of a disagreement about having kids or not. Like that's anything in marriage. And like, I'm not the married one here out of the three of us.
Hi.
So I can't really speak much to that, but as a, what is it? Conscientious objector? The person on the outside looking in?
Yeah, an unobjective observer.
Thank you.
Conscientious objector is like, I don't want to carry a firearm in a war.
Well, there's that too.
Those kinds of things.
Well, let me speak into this for just a second. I think what you're hitting at here is that disagreements should be the start, not the end. Disagreements should be the start of the conversation. It should not be like, oh, well, we disagree, so we can't see eye to eye. We'll never see eye to eye. I don't want, because like, that's not how relationships deepen. Also, in the small group that we're doing, Rick Warren, 40 Days of Community, you guys should check it out. He just said something that actually really struck a chord with me because I'm really bad at it. He said, thank you. He said, for those listening, Jordan just gave me an air guitar strum. It was great because I struck a chord. But no, Rick Warren said that relationships grow through conflict, which I don't like conflict. I kind of avoid it like the plague. And my first response to conflict or confrontation or just disagreement is, oh yeah, no, of course you're right. I'm just an idiot and I don't know what I'm talking about. Because to me, it's conflict is so not worth it that I'd rather just sacrifice everything that I think. But that's not how relationships work. And it starts with disagreement. And through talking about it, you get to know more about the other person. And through getting to know more about the other person, you get closer to the other person. So like what you were saying, why don't you want to have kids? Why do you want to have kids? What makes you afraid of this? Like, I want to know you more. I want to know why this scares you or why you're so excited about this. Like that's a chance to dive deeper in relationship rather than to step away.
Yeah. My question too, with specifically when we think about the like having kids and all that stuff for married couples, is for us as the church, what is marriage for? Who is marriage for? Like, what's the biblical basis and purpose of marriage? Because I think like that's where a lot of disagreements stem from, specifically in like human sexuality conversation, but in other ones too, divorce, remarriage, those kinds of things, is what is marriage, and then what or who is marriage for? Yeah. What's the purpose of it? Is it just for me? I'm not married, by the way. If it's just for me, and my needs, and because I feel good, is it for the other person? Is it to have kids and multiply? Is it for being a representative of what the Trinity looks like, or the church, right? Jesus and Jesus being the bridegroom and the church being the bride coming together. Like what is that purpose? And we don't, I mean, that's like a whole like 5-episode series about this conversation, but I think that helps at least us as believers consider and process through a lot of questions like this. Like what are some bases for divorce? What about like when we have conversations with people about, are you going to have kids, not have kids? Oh, why are you going to have kids? Or why aren't you going to have kids? What's the reason for that? That kind of thing. And bringing people back to scripture and to what the Lord has laid out for us and what marriage is and who it's for and what the purpose of it is, I think is a good conversation to have. Because I think that's where a lot of even in the church, disagreements about marriage on a whole bunch of different issues stem from, is maybe we don't have the deepest view or the most accurate view of those questions. Which
we may not, this may not be the right platform for us to talk about it, but there are, I just want to maybe shout out to 2 other podcasts that I had listened to in the past as I have been walking into my own marriage. One's called Kingdom Sexuality and the other one's called Get Your Marriage On. They're both really solid. They're not afraid to talk about the nitty gritty and the stuff that maybe if you grew up in a purity culture kind of house, you'd be uncomfortable with hearing or talking about, but their whole mission is to engage with those conversations in a way that brings glory to God and glory to the kingdom. Awesome. It's really good.
Cool. Engage the engaged.
Nice.
There's another podcast. We should start that.
That would only be you.
Yeah, never mind.